Welcome to Nuntar's first architecture stream. This is the first time I've ever tried streaming, and I don't know if it's going to be at all successful. I'm hoping that the people in chat will help with telling me whether I've got everything set up correctly. Can you hear anything yet? I'm just waiting to see if the people in chat say they can see my streaming, because I have started about 40 seconds ago. Can anyone hear me? And if you can, how is the audio balance? Okay. Well, that's a start. What about my voice? Can you hear my voice clearly? Okay, the music's a little loud, Chucko says. I'll just turn that down. I mean, I've already got it very, very near the bottom, but I do want to have the music because, you know, I'm not very good at talking, and I think talking continuously for as long as this stream is going to take would drive some people to distraction, so I do want to have the music on. Sorry, Chaco's just saying that one of the demos that automatically played for Simon's Dungeon might be a bit spoilerific for people who haven't played. I have that up because I have just finished playing Simon's Dungeon myself. Okay, so it looks like we're in business. Hello everyone, I'm Nuntar, Sentinel Proxima, or Michael S. Repton, whatever you want to call me, and this is my first attempt at a DROD architecture stream, in which I'm going to be building a short hold, maybe in one sitting. That might be a bit ambitious, so I'm just going to see how I get on. And the first thing is, I've already written about my plans for the stream on the Caravel forum, but just to go over this again, I've decided to restrict myself to themes for each level, and to choose those themes, I've looked through an old forum topic in which people named their favourite DROD elements. So I've drawn up a list from that, and I'm going to roll a die to choose from that list at random. An actual physical die, I have it in my hand now, and it is 6. So my first level theme is shallow water, and for the people who want trapdoors, this has increased the chance of trapdoors turning up later. So let's get started now. Start new hold, stream hold will do. I'll think of a real title for it later. Shallow water. So, what theme is good for shallow water? Swamp, maybe? I really don't like the way the editor always starts with the darkness settings from whatever you were last looking at. Most of the time that's not what you want. Anyway, for this stream, I'm going to try to build rooms as fast as possible and only worry about the darkness and stuff later on. Anything to do with room aesthetics, that's for when I go over these rooms afterwards. I'll just check in chat whether everything's still okay. And I'm going to roll the ideas generator. I've tweaked it so that it has fewer selections. So just 1 to 3 elements to use and 0 to 2 interactions. And so I'm rolling with a shallow water theme, and I got this interaction. Player invisible due to shallow water will attract monsters more than 5 squares away if a brain is within range. Let's leave the entrance alone and build rooms to the northeast, south and west so I can think about where you enter the room from. So one obvious thing, shallow water, is I can enter the room in shallow water already, and that means that everything will be frozen for a while. So we're talking about getting within range of a brain, so maybe just cover the whole room in shallow water. And put some brains about. See, if I have them in an arc like that, so one thing that immediately suggests itself is that you don't want to get within range of any of these brains, because if you do, a roach will know that you exist and come towards you. And if it does that, it will step on a pressure plate that blocks off the conquer token. So you can see that this works. Obviously the problem at the moment is there just isn't space to get through the ring of brains, so the room's not possible. But while I was placing those, I was thinking, what do I want to be the linchpin? What do I want to make it possible? And one simple answer is I could have a mimic. So while the player is swordless and can't get to the places they can kill the brains from, a mimic could get to one or more of those places. So let's put I need to put walls there so you can't just kill the roach with the mimic. But let's put a mimic. If you do that, that particular brain doesn't actually help much, but I can use standard mimic pushing techniques now that the mimic's there to get him within range of that brain. But I don't actually want to kill that one either. I want to kill this one. But before killing it, I'll move up so I can kill this brain and that brain. And now, whoops, don't step on the tiles. Now Beethro has a much better chance of, whoops, getting through. Want to avoid the mimic. Oh, right, and oh no. It would be more interesting as a puzzle if these top two rows were not there. Now what's wrong? That plate didn't do anything. Why did the plate not do anything? Because it's set to open the door, I want it to close. Move the mimic down. put wall in the top 2 rows, so now you have to kill this brain in order to get past. Put a few checkpoints. I'll sort out the positions later during testing. And the last thing now is that when you step here, the roach is going to move, and that's not what you want. So I'll move the roach further south, so that when you step here, he won't step on the pressure plate because that's not towards you anymore. And I think we have a finished room. Okay, I'll just pour myself some water. Okay, so the idea of using the idea generator to roll a suggestion for a room seems to have worked well. I'm going to try it again. This time I get 2 interactions. Gel cannot grow onto shallow water, and the same one about the player. Gel. That is tricky. Oh, just for fun, let's make the entire entrance room shallow water. Gel. Okay, so one thing I could do is have an island with this is going a bit away from the concept, but suppose I had an island with a gel blob. Maybe that one's a bit too big. Gel cutting is always tricky, isn't it? And you have Lucky Luke likes the idea of the entire level being shallow water. Well, that might happen. We'll see. So what I'm thinking about with the gel is that there are only certain ways you can cut it, because you can only cut the inside corners, so you have to be facing diagonally. So is there a way that Chaco suggests a room where you have to run away from a single-brained water skipper. An idea for later, anyway. Well, yes, because if you're in shallow water, you can't kill the water skipper unless you find a land tile. But what would you be doing? Well, I could use the power token. So that you can hit orbs. Yeah, I'm going to do this now. It's more interesting than the gel room. So you want to get to the brain. Chaco is reminding me to look at the YouTube chat. I'm so sorry. Chaco and Jeff are both there, and I haven't been looking at it. Right, yes, so quite an interesting selection of ideas. I'll just have another drink of water quickly. Yes, Jeff says it's hard to keep mind of multiple chats, and that's quite true. Okay, so brained water skipper. Just for fun, I'll start the water skipper on that land tile, which actually makes no difference. Oh well, one thing is because of the invisibility effect. So what I'll do here is that a good distance for the brain? It could be one tile further out. So I'll put some brains on fire traps. Oh dear. Although that does remind me. Let me do a quick test of something. Yes, you can indeed push a brain onto shallow water and it will not sink. That's something to use in another room, not this one. For this one, the brains on fire traps ensure that you are visible at all times when you're in this square. But there's a pressure plate under that brain so that when you kill it, all of these die. And the point of that is I don't have to provide land tiles next to them. Just having a look at the... Alex Dina says, fascinating. So far this is remarkably different from how I think about building rooms. I'd love to chat about that at greater length at some time. For now I'm concentrating on building this as quickly as possible. So you're always visible. And the water skipper's going to pursue you, but because of standard brain thingies, it's actually quite easy to get round it. That's not so good. So maybe, yeah. How about 4 water skippers, one coming from each corner? Still quite easy to reach the brain, but I need to be a little bit further ahead of the water skippers in order to survive. So, that doesn't work. Oh, this is quite tricky. I can't really use that trick from Fire Hotlands, I think, with 4 skippers after me. Whoops, didn't mean to bring up the chat window. In fact, now I'm getting them much closer than in my first attempt. That was the best I've done so far. Maybe I'm just not thinking about brained movement correctly. Maybe Chaco or someone would be able to solve this room as it is. I'm finding it a struggle. See, that skipper's always going to come towards me, and I need those two to be some distance from each other. Maybe, yeah, maybe if I move... No, that doesn't work. Help. Yeah, Chaka says this seems pretty tough, not enough obstacles. Well, I'm going to give up trying to solve it as it is and add some obstacles. Like, I don't know, just put down a random pattern and see whether it leads to anything interesting. So now that top skipper's going to come down towards me and I can come like that. Well, unfortunately I seem to have made it rather trivial. I was going to have a power token. Let's put a power token. And that lets you hit orbs without needing to have a land tile. And the point of that was that I was going to make some force arrow thingies. And the thing about force arrows, of course, is that brained creatures will not cross force arrows. They will always try to path around them if a path around is available. So we can put down some force arrows. And then place orbs that turn some of the arrows off. Again, this is pretty much at random because I don't have time to think about, is this going to make a good puzzle? I'm just putting down some orbs and stuff and seeing what happens. Okay, so this one at the top has to be hit for you to get to the brain at all. And you can gain some time by crossing the arrows like that, but really you don't want the water skippers to be going around that way, you'd rather they went round the other way. So now you've gained a lot of time. Okay, I think that's enough for this room for now. It's fairly easy, but at least you have to think about brained movement patterns. So I might make that room more elaborate later on. Chaco says, can't wait until mass arrow designation gets easier. Yes, it is a little bit tedious. So now for the gel room. A few people reminded me that that gel can in fact grow across stepping stones created by either mirrors or killing rock golems. I should have remembered that because there's a very good room on that theme in Beathrow and the Cake, which I replayed recently. So we can easily have a gel blob with a mother, and to save everyone time and frustration, the mother happens to have settled down on fire traps, which is a bit silly of her, but you know, boss arena idiocy. Alex says something went wrong with the video encoder in the brain room. I'm not sure what that's about. Anyway, the idea now is that we have to make this gel grow onto a pressure plate, because if we step onto the pressure plate ourselves, it will close us in. And if a monster steps onto it, it will enclose the monster, so we can't ever kill them. So the only way to deal with this is stepping stones. For this to work, obviously we have to both provide some rock golems or maybe a giant, and also provide tiles that you can stand on in order to kill the giant. And having a tile there is quite interesting because it will of course grow a gel baby. So one other thing we can do is put a brain on a fire trap which is also affected by that pressure plate. So if a gel baby is grown there, the brain, well, again you have the same thing as in the other room. You're invisible for now, which also means the gel mother will not grow. Right, so you have to get a rock giant there. Well, it's easy to make that possible. The question is how to make that interesting. Let's have force arrows, and this entire part of the room is basically a maze. So you're trying to get the rock giant to to find its way to you through the maze. And the thing that makes this interesting is, of course, that the rock giant will not move at all unless you are near a brain, so you have to keep changing which brain you're near so as to move it up or down. It's kind of trivial at the moment. Need to think about how this can be made more interesting. Oh, well, a number of interesting interactions have come up in the chat. Jeff says I could use a decoy to change whether B-throw is invisible or not. And Chaco says you could be on solid ground for a while. I don't like building monster mazes like this. It takes a lot of time compared with the interest value of watching me build the maze. So I think this may be one room that I'll put aside for later. But just to see that things are working, I move to there, and you want to be out of range on turn 30. So at least there is the interest of having that as something to watch out for. Killing the giant is harder than I'd expected as well. Alright, I need to use the brain to lure the golems. Whoa. Golems are nasty even when they're... Then I do that. No, how do I get them around the other side? Oh, it's because he's not acting brained that this is difficult. Cool. So I could put another brain here, say, and one there. Jeff says I can kill a golem by the floor tile. Yeah, yes, I know that, but you know, he has to be in the right position. So I'm going to try again from here. Because the point is I don't want to kill them on the stepping stones. I want to kill them east of the stepping stones, so the gel forms a 2x2 thing. There you go. Oops. I'll just stand here so it doesn't grow a baby on the tile where I am. For this one, it will grow a baby there, but I can kill the baby. And as an added bonus, the gel babies can all die in those fire traps, although I should really have made all of this area fire traps to simplify that. Throw a few checkpoints around. Put the giant back where it started, and we have another room. Chaco says this one is a good room, and I agree. I think once I've had time to polish up the maze bit, this is my favourite of the 3 rooms so far. So for the next room, I want to look more closely at an interaction that came up during the building of that one. If I can remember what that was, it was something to do with brains. Can anyone remember? I did talk about this. Oh yes, Jeff remembers. Brains float on shallow water. How can I make that an interesting... well, what comes to mind is one room from Guardviance where you had to transport a brain across shallow water, having first killed some golems to make a path that Beathrow could step on, or something like that. I have to admit it's not at first sight obvious how I can use that interaction in an interesting way. I could use... Yes, Chaco's ahead of me. He says that soldiers float on shallow water as well, yes. I was thinking that if you have a brain on shallow water and you need to transport it for some reason, the obvious thing to use is a soldier with a staff. So, but I think people tend to not like soldiers because they are a bit fiddly. So, do you want me to make that room? I think I'll leave that idea for later, and I'll go back to something else that came up in the discussion of the gel room, which is that you can use a decoy to attract the brain's attention while you're invisible. Let me just check how this works. So, potions can be placed directly on shallow water. That's good. Water skipper. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work like I thought it would. We have lots of ideas coming from the chat. I'm just going to roll the idea generator again. Okay. Engineer builds shallow water. There's something. Oh, Jeff corrects me. The interaction he had in mind was that decoys make tar stuff mothers grow, which is true. What was I saying? Engineers. So why would you want shallow water in a particular part of the room? Or maybe it is that you don't want shallow water. So maybe you have like a part of the room that's closed off. And you want to get... well, it's awkward if it's an engineer, because engineers build without going back to a relay station. So what about citizens? I mean, I know citizens use relay stations. What I'm asking is, do citizens... That's not a citizen. Do they move in shallow water? Let's find out. Yes, they do. They can move on shallow water. Yes. Chaco is talking about a bug about serpent movement, which, you know, it's an interesting topic, but I'm not going to get sidetracked into talking about that right now. Instead, what we have is a citizen moving on shallow water, and let's say that you want to have some normal ground, because you want to be because there's a roach here that you want to kill by move onto a hot tile, and the only way you can do that is if you stand here and it is not a shallow water tile. I'm sure you've guessed what's coming. Does this place in an area? Like so. Let's try that. Yep. So it's a timer. You've got to get other stuff done before he builds shallow water all the way down here and makes it impossible for you to kill that roach. Chaco says citizens even have custom sprites for being in shallow water. Let's just have another look. Yep, you can see that the it looks like the lower half of his body is submerged. Just cute little detail that I didn't know about before. I've put the relay station too far away because that timer is going to be really long. So the question now, obviously we've got a timer, but to make this an interesting room, we've got to have something for you to do while the timer is counting down. Chaco says it's an unconventional timer. Thank you for that. I've got to have something for the player to do while the timer is counting down, otherwise there's no challenge. Well, for one thing, let's just start in the room and see now how many turns does it take him to completely 430. So not only is it still much too long, there is also another problem, which is that the citizen is constantly in your way. Now, if I take this out and make that all shallow water, where is the tile where? So if you were here, 123, the shallow water would still be a problem. Further north and it's not. 187. Also, if I make that a floor tile, then it is possible for the player to get past the citizen. Let's just see how that works out. Yeah, you can get past him and you can get back out. Both of those are important. So we've got a little efficiency puzzle. What do we want the player to have to be efficient about? Alex says, this makes me want to work on my hold at the same time, especially since the level I'm building now is in a swamp. So what I was thinking is that I could have something like Gunthrow and the Epic Blunder, where I just put down some islands. These are going to have roaches on them, and you need to go around them. All this space looks ugly now, so I'll do that. So you need to go round the islands in order to manipulate the roaches so that it's possible to kill them. Like that, for example. Oh, that one isn't possible. Good old marooned roach is able to subsist off the very algae itself. Well, if I move that roach there and put a hole in the island, then those can be killed. This one I'm still not sure if it can be. Oh yeah, quite easily. So all of these can be killed now. The question is, can they be killed in the time limit? Yes, they can be killed in far less than the time limit. So what I'm going to do for the final version of the room is just expand this idea with more roach islands over here, and if necessary tweak the timer to more closely match the amount of time actually needed, so that you need to think about efficiency. But yeah, there's there's the basic room layout. Hold on a second, my housemate's just getting home, so I just need to have a word with him. Hello. Okay, Chaco says it's a good efficiency room, or it will be when it's finished. Obviously, at the moment it's rather trivial because the amount of time it actually needs is only 1/3 of the length of the timer. What next? I would like to... One twist could be to put a goblin on one of the islands or something. I'll do that right now so that I remember it for the future. That's... Can goblins go on shallow water? No, they can't. That's good. But that's a good suggestion. Oh, Pekka says, how do you force the player to kill the island roaches first? And that's a very good point. I need to make it so this one must be the last one that you kill. So I could make it so that taking this roach off where he starts releases some briar. Briar, I think, can grow over shallow water. It can certainly grow over normal water. Actually, that's the best way to do it, isn't it? So when this roach is killed, the briar is released and will block your exit, but not if you've cleared the room. Okay, now I've built rooms in all 4 cardinal directions from the entrance. The question is, which of these can most easily lead to another room? Oh, that's tricky. I guess it's this one because I can put another room up here, provided that I gate it with the green door, because I'm not sure this room works if you start from the north edge, and I can't be bothered to test. So we're getting near to the 1 hour mark, so this is going to be the last room for this level. Yeah, I do want to do something with that decoy interaction that was mentioned. That you can use decoys to make tar stuff mothers grow. But how do I turn that into a puzzle? At the moment I'm drawing a blank, I'm afraid. And since that's not a good state to be in, I'll try the idea generator yet again. Oh, it says mud cannot grow onto shallow water, so I guess I'm using mud and a decoy. Chaco says that spike traps, I assume you mean floor spikes, go off on turn 30. So if you place a decoy on floor spikes, it should only get tar mothers to grow once. Okay, yeah, but then you could just put multiple decoys on it. So I'm not really getting what you're suggesting in terms of a puzzle concept. Oh, maybe I'm a bit burned out by this. Yeah, I think forget this. I'm going to say, great, I made a finished level, or maybe not finished, but I made a decent level considering that was done in less than an hour. I'm going to turn off the stream and take a break, and then come back in, let's say, 15 minutes to work on another level. So thank you for watching, everyone. This has been Nuntar making a level themed around shallow water. See you soon.